I've made two previous videos about my attempts to integrate a domino elegantly into my MFT station. This is my third attempt, and I think I'm making some progress. In this incarnation, I once again have the domino mounted between two dashboard outriggers off the main bench, but this mount is a bit different than the previous attempt. And my goal here is to show what Ola Carmonius calls the fence flip problem, where he has a very clever mechanism with his triangular fence where he can flip the fence over and make sure that the reference is the same on each side of the joint. And I'm going to attempt to do the same basic idea using dashboard's fence and flip stops instead of the embedded rod that he has placed in his fence. This is my Ola Carmonius fence, or rather, it wants to be an Ola Carmonius triangular fence when it grows up. Right now, it's just a square piece of wood. By the way, and I'm inserting this clip later during editing to acknowledge a terminology problem. This is the counterpart to what Ola Carmonius calls a fence. It's a fence that is used to position a board when it is perpendicular to the domino for inserting a mortise into the end. This is also called a fence. This is the dashboard F2 fence. This is the F1 fence. So the dual use of the word fence here is a bit confusing. My apologies, but I'm not going to reshoot the whole video. This is the board where I want to put the domino in the end. So I'm going to put this board here. And, let's say I line it up how I want, and I will set the fence next to it, and then I'll set the flip stop. Now, because this is a separate flip stop, I can set this one up before I do any of the cuts. And the way I'm going to transfer the measurement over, instead of using the rod that Ola uses, I'm going to use a combo square, in this case, a very small one. So I need a reference pin. So I'm going to, on the Domino 700, I'm going to eject these pins and I'm going to choose the innermost one. And then I have this combo square. Note that I don't care what the number is. I just want to use the combo square as a way of remembering that number. So I have this locked in. In this case, the combo square is serving a similar purpose to the dashboard rip gauge. Now I have taken that measurement, or I've transferred that measurement to my combo square. So I'm going to move the fence over here. I need to switch to the other side's pin. Once again, the inner pin. And then I'm going to place the combo square here. I'm going to slide my fence piece here, and then I can configure this flip stop. Now I have both flip stops ready for the cut. It doesn't really matter which one I do first. I'm going to go back to where I was before. I don't need this pin anymore, so I'll tuck that in. I'm going to go ahead and do this cut first, line it up with the fence. I can use a dog hole grid for clamping and hold downs and such. So I'm going to clamp my board in place. So for cutting the other side where I want the mortise here, I'm going to push this fence back over by its flip stop. And then I slide the board here. I can clamp it. I do want to make sure that the board is held down well. So I have the mortise now done on each side. Hopefully I can insert the domino. And I end up with what seems to be a pretty clean joint. Now I'll show you some of the details of how this board is constructed and how it's configured with the other parts of the system here. This set of mounting holes would result in the domino being up here flush with the edge of the board. I've used this set of mounting holes, which you currently can't see, but I'll take that apart in a minute, which is specifically designed to make sure that the domino can be flush with the front of an F1 fence mounted to the outriggers here. I expressed concern in a previous video about the weight of the domino being cantilevered if it wasn't fully supported. I convinced myself that this level of support is sufficient because the heavy part of the rear part of the Domino XL is in fact resting back here. The board goes back far enough to accommodate that. In the top up there are two knobs with M5 screws that are attaching the domino to the board. And then there are knobs with T-bolts attaching to each side of this canyon between the two outriggers. The other reason I care about the rear of the Domino XL being supported is that I have now taken those screws out so that now the domino is just sitting there, but because it is well supported, it's not going to fall off. So here it is with the domino removed, and you can now see the set of holes that I was using for the mounting. These holes are intentionally a little bit oversized. Originally, I was obsessing about the idea that they had to be exactly right, and it turns out that's totally the wrong approach. What I needed was a little bit of play so that once the domino is screwed in but not tightened, I can adjust its position to be exactly parallel and coplanar with the front of the fence. Having loosened these T-bolts, now I can simply slide the unit out. And of course, you can see how very simple it is. There's not much to it, of course. It's just a floor for mounting the domino and two walls for attaching to the sides. The mounting board is 150 millimeters wide. The walls are 80 millimeters tall. The mounting board is 400 millimeters long, and the walls are slightly shorter. Just like the holes used to mount the domino, the holes used for these T-bolts are slightly oversized so that I can adjust the height of the entire thing to make sure that it is level and flat with respect to the two outriggers. So when I mount this thing in place, I'm just sliding it between the two outriggers, getting the T-bolts into the track. So once it's sitting in position loose, I lay a straight edge across the outriggers. I simply need to lift the board from below with one hand and tighten the knobs a little bit with the other until I get everything nice and flush. Same process repeated in the back for the rear knobs. To mount the domino to the board, you do need to thread these knobs up from below, which turns out to be not as difficult as I thought it might be. It does help to line things up from above as best you can and look through the mounting holes from above to try and line things up, which works a little better on the 700. This is a Domino 500, which, by the way, it works fine with this setup. The dimensions and mounting situation are exactly the same. The only real difference is that I like the pins on the Domino 700 so much better than these paddles on the 500. Here's an example of how the spring-loaded paddles on the Domino 500 vex me. I'm currently holding this piece of wood up against the paddle because it's exactly where I want it, but if I let go of it, it shifts slightly because the paddle being spring-loaded pushes it away. Here's a close-up shot of how I use this little mini combo square. I set the little combo square with one side of it up against the paddle or pin, and then I slide the blade over till it touches the fence. As I said, the paddle on the 500 makes this a little more awkward, but it does work. After my third incarnation of the Overboard, I had sort of a Doc Brown moment from Back to the Future, you know, when he says, "I finally invented something that works." After I settled down a little bit, I realized it's a bit of a stretch to say that I invented anything, and certainly what I've done here doesn't compare to a flux capacitor. What I might say instead here is that I realized a way to apply what Ola Harmonious designed with his domino jig to the dashboard system designed by Rob Shoemaker at Dashboard. I mean, it feels a little bit like I invented something because of all my failed attempts, but in reality, probably the best thing I did was to stop trying to invent something. For example, instead of trying to invent a fence, I just decided to figure out a way to use the fences I already had as part of the dashboard system. Even this mounting board that I designed, I could have avoided the entire thing if I had simply been willing to drill holes in my MFT top. I'll probably be willing to drill holes or make cuts or alterations to my MFT top at some point, but not today. I think I might be ready to stop fiddling with this solution and start using it.